Ryan Day had his weekly press conference in preparation for a game week. It's the game week. It's Ohio State. It's Michigan on Saturday at noon in the big house. I'm Steven. That's Stefan. That's Andrew. 2 questions for each of you. Biggest thing you learned during Ryan Day's press conference, and then how'd you feel about the vibes?
Ooh, I'm gonna start with the vibes first because that was gonna be my takeaway. So now I have to come up with the takeaway, but I can.
No, you can like.
Yeah, I'll find a way to mesh it all together. We got time. We got nowhere to be. The vibes were good. The vibes were really good. Like, we laughed a couple times.
Ryan Day laughed a couple times.
Yeah. Go ahead.
And Ryan Day pressers this year generally have resembled a coach who won a national title and had a bit of a weight off his shoulders. And I think that continued into this week. He was asked, like, everything you've done, we've talked about this a lot, the routine and keeping things the routine and not doing anything special this week because it's Michigan. He was asked, yeah, but like some of like the conversations and like the video clips you share and stuff like that with the players, like that's a little bit more ramped up than usual. And he laughed and he was like, yeah, like it is. So I think that Ohio State's doing this kind of, fine line, I guess, for lack of a better term, in terms of keep the routine, but also understand the magnitude of the game, right? Don't change how you prepare for the game, but understand what you're preparing for. And I think that's kind of the perfect approach. And I think that's why, maybe you see Ryan Day a little bit upbeat, a little bit more happy. There were a lot more cameras in the room today, but like even like compared to like a Michigan week last year, like there were more cameras in the room today. So it was, the vibes were good. I'll answer the vibes question. I think the vibes were good.
Vibes and takeaways, Gillis. Vibes and takeaways.
I thought the vibes were good. I came in here and I was talking to one of the other writers and I went, I'm curious to see how he handles this. And we kind of were like, we both agreed that he has handled the questions for the last 3 years pretty well in terms of just dealing with the Michigan defeats and dealing with everything that comes with that. But I was curious how he was going to do. And I think like the first question or second question, he was kind of like chuckling along and he seemed relaxed. And those are the kind of vibes you want. And I think that was something that I like all weekend long, like after the Rutgers game ended, I was just like thinking about it. I was like, there's so much big picture stuff about the game, and there's so much big picture stuff about how this game is going to unfold, and all that's valid. Like, if you want to talk about Ryan Day not beating Michigan since before COVID, and all the way that the Stallion stuff has happened, and everything that's gone on here, okay, we could have those conversations. The stylistic game plan of last year and how these two teams match up, those are valid. But Ryan Day was talking about something I didn't get a chance to ask him today, like, it is a football game. Somebody is going to walk out on the field, put a football down on a tee, toe meets leather. They're going to play 60 minutes. And Ryan was talking about, hey, we still got to go out and play well. And I forget his exact quote, but he was like, we need to go out there and just play the way that we have played. And I think there's like you said, Stefan, they're towing that line. One of the things that I wanted to ask him was like, hey, Bryce Underwood's a different style of quarterback. How does that change the way that you guys play? Because you could take it from the helicopter view of just, oh man, Bryce Underwood, freshman quarterback for Michigan. I wrote about it for the site the morning that you guys are watching this, about how Bryce Underwood could become one of Ohio State's biggest ever villains if he stays at Michigan for 3 to 4 years and gets a couple wins against these guys. Like, it is 100% valid to talk about that. It's also valid to talk about what he's going to do this Saturday. And I think Ryan Day is trying to focus on that. He is trying to zone in on Saturday and say, forget this other stuff, forget the big picture stuff. We need to play better than the other team. It does not matter if they show up in the maize and blue or any other color or any other helmet. We just have to play better than them. And that was kind of my big thing of just like thinking as he was going through, he said like, I know it's cliche, but like 4 times today. So I think Ryan Day's, I think he's handling this pretty well. That was probably like my biggest thing that I was taking away of just, I was thinking going into this, like it is a football game at the end of the day. It is a 60-minute game. Maybe we go to overtime. It is a 60-minute game. I know it is a 60-minute game, and Ryan Day seemed to really just try to emphasize that to us, because I think he's emphasizing that to his team to play up to what it is. But I think his quote about the video stuff was, we're not going to overdo it.
So a couple housekeeping things. You followed up and asked about Lorenzo Styles. He said he will practice today, but we'll see how the week goes. He also said that they feel confident in the depth behind that. That depth could be just putting Bryce West out there as a starter. That depth could be moving Jermaine Matthews into nickel and starting Devin Sanchez. That depth can just be they're going to play more 3 linebacker looks, which I think is actually going to end up what happens because they're playing Michigan, who plays a lot of heavy set personnel. He got asked about Josh Padilla, who was not on the availability report but did not play, and what is going on in terms of who might be rotating with Tegra Shabola between him and Gabe Van Sickle. He said it depends on how healthy Josh Padilla is. They're going to go through practice this week, and then we'll make a decision on that. I think that's all the housekeeping things. Oh, yeah, JJ and Cardinal Tate. Go check out another video. We talked about that there. What did I think about the vibes of this presser? What did I think about the vibes of this presser? We're going to do stuff, but we're not going to overdo it.
Yeah.
I think that's the way he has to handle it.
Yes.
Right? Because I think his predecessor was so obsessive about this and, time for war. I'm serious. Like, time for war, LL Cool J song used to just be blasting through the facility all day that it used to just drive you crazy. Like, you hated it. You almost hated the song, and then you loved it, and then you hated it, and then you knew every lyric. It was seriously, it was like psychological warfare. And you'd be stepping on Michigan stuff, like not here, but in like the locker room and stuff, they'd have stuff to step on. Obviously, the scout team, they'll put amazing blue helmets on, the wing helmets, they'll wear those. There was signage up anywhere. It just looks like a normal day in here. And I think that's how he has to deal with the rivalry. And I think that's how this team has to deal with the rivalry because the other guy made it so big because he needed to make it so big that this guy, it became so big that he lost sight of the fact that, to your point, it's just a football game. And that's not to devalue the rivalry.
Right.
That part still matters. But at the end of the day, for 2.5 hours, well, 4 hours because it's on Fox, you have to just go play football. Yeah. And that has to be the most important thing in that situation. So I think for me, the vibes were where Ryan Day's Ohio State needs them to be for them to attack this game the right way. Yes, it's the biggest rivalry in sports. Yes, you win it and you get to the Big Ten championship game. Yes, you win it and you more than likely secure a bye in the college football playoff. You win it and, yeah, you've got Julian Sayin, who might be up for the Heisman Trophy at that point. And Jeremiah Smith, quite frankly, could have the game of his life and somehow end up being the winner of it. 'Cause I don't think a quarterback has snatched it away. Jeremiah Love has somehow crept his way back into this conversation, right? But sure, all that stuff is out there, but none of that matters if you don't win on Saturday and you don't execute. And if it feels like you have to compartmentalize it that way, that's how you have to deal with it, then you do that and not worry so much about the big picture, the fact that Big Noon Kickoff brought extra cameras in there and all of us are probably going to be on TV because we ask questions and all that stuff. All that stuff is great, but it doesn't seem like this version of Ohio State, that's not the best way for them to go about handling that. So that's I think the vibes were where they needed to be for Ryan Day.
Yeah, they're about as good as you could ask for. Not you circle back because I think it's my turn to finally do a takeaway. That's not vibes based.
You don't have to if you don't want one.
No, I'm good to go because I want to follow up on what he was saying about Bryce Underwood and turn it to the other side and Julian Sayin under center and kind of the test that's at hand for him. Obviously, you talked about Heisman on the line for him. If he beats Michigan then and gets to Indianapolis, they changed the Heisman voting this year. It used to be, the voters would get a week to put in their votes. The voting doesn't open now until after the championship game. If Julian Sayin beats Michigan, I think Indianapolis is probably setting up to be Julian Sayin versus Fernando Mendoza for the Heisman. Obviously, we'll see what Jeremiah Love does, but he's not going to be playing in a conference championship game. That's an advantage that Julian and Fernando have, right? Obviously, Marcel Reed is in that conversation as well. We'll see what these next couple weeks look like. It looks right now like it would be A&M versus Alabama, so maybe Ty Simpson can enter back into the mix. I think right now it's probably Marcel Reed, Fernando Mendoza, Julian Sayin playing in conference championship week for chances to win the Heisman, and then we'll see where Jeremiah Love kind of stands in this conversation. And then, like you said, if Jeremiah Smith has a couple big games, the point is to say there's a lot on the line for Julian Sayin here personally, but also in terms of the team. We've pointed it specifically to last year's game and blamed the coaching staff and Chip Kelly and Ryan Day a ton for, the running up the middle and all that. Will Howard didn't play well. And obviously he got banged up, but he threw a pick before he got banged up. That's set up. Is this 2 straight years now?
Yeah, I have the stat. Ohio State's quarterback has thrown 2 interceptions in this game the last 3 games.
Yes. But the last 2 games, that first interception literally led immediately to the first touchdown that Michigan scored, right? It was Kyle McCord trying to throw that slant to Marv, and then I don't remember the Will Howard one last year, but oh yeah, that's right, out route.
It's
Yeah,
like a bad throw and a bad decision.
yes, yeah, and then Michigan got set up. I think it was like set up at the 2-yard line or something to score their only touchdown of the game. Julian Sayin has to be crisp, not just for the Heisman, for this team to win, right? Like, turnovers cannot be part of the equation. Buying time during broken plays, like, he has to be able to do that, and he's shown signs of doing that the last few weeks. Ryan Day talked about how he's improved in that area. Ryan Day was saying you make the routine plays routinely, and when the play breaks down, you make the coaches look good by going and make a play. Julian Sayin has to be on his A game, right? And I'm not saying he has to throw 400 yards and 7 touchdowns, and it doesn't have to be. I'm sure you would love that, but that's not what it has to be, right? If he goes out there and throws somewhere between 250 to 300 yards, has a couple touchdowns, and no interceptions, that's more than enough for Ohio State to win this game, right? Because you figure that their defense is going to play pretty well. There maybe be a rushing touchdown or two in that mix. They can run the ball well enough to where it's not like they're going to throw it 70 times, even though I'm sure you would love to see that as well. It's a very important game for Julian, the same way that it is for Bryce, right? Like, he has a lot to prove. He's the freshman who's getting paid millions and millions of dollars and has a chance to get his team to the playoff, and all that is on the line for Bryce, absolutely. But there's a ton on the line for Julian Sayin here, and we're going to have a conversation on our live show Wednesday morning where we're going to talk about, guys that can kind of have that Chris Olave effect where they're the breakout player. I don't know if I don't know what your guys' answer was going to be. I don't know if Julian Sayin kind of fits that because he's the starting quarterback who's in the mix for the Heisman. Yeah. Everyone knows who he is. But, like, there hasn't necessarily been a game yet this year, maybe Penn State, where Ohio State fans were like Julian Sayin, Buckeye legend. And he has a chance to do that, right? He has a chance to do that by playing clean, mistake-free football. That doesn't mean game manager who doesn't take risks, right? Take shots, use your receivers. If JJ plays or Cardinal plays, lean on those guys. Take risks. Don't be conservative, but be smart. And when you kind of pick and choose your moments, that could be a very defining moment for Julian Sayin in his still relatively young Ohio State career.
Does he have to be special? Because that's not special. That's just what he is.
Yeah.
That's routine.
Yeah, he's a guy who completes like 70+% of balls 20 yards down the field, right? He doesn't have to be 10 for 10 throwing 20-yard balls, but like, can he be 2 for 4, 3 for 4, right? Like, be special in the context of Julian Sayin being special.
No, but even that's not. Maybe this is not a fair thing to say, but I don't think just being what you like. That's not when you think of like the legends in this game. Especially since you brought up the Chris Olave point, it's like we had never seen that from Chris Olave before. Sure. That's like the thing there of like Julian Sayin going out there and completing 80% of his passes. His standard is so high now that last week he was at 68. We're all like, "Oh, you're slipping." It's like, really, 68% slipping? That's like top 10 in the country. Like, seriously, that's what we're doing here? I was watching some games from back in the. They put up Joe Klatt's like numbers at some point in the game last week, and he was like 61%. It's like that's where everybody used to be. He's at 80%. Yeah. He was not special against Texas, and the way I preferenced my question, Gillis, was. Ohio State was always going to cap its season with big game at the beginning, big game at the end of it. And there was a way they went about doing things with Julian Sayin in game one where they kept him out of harm's way. And then when there was a moment to throw a ball, they let him throw the ball. But the reason why everybody who is not all in on Julian Sayin yet as like the guy is because unfortunately Penn State stunk by the time they got to him, and they didn't let him do anything against Texas. And so it's just been everybody who's in the Ohio State bubble who has paid any close attention to Ohio State that's like, no, I'm telling you this kid's special. No, I'm telling you this kid's special. But it's like, okay, well, we're all looking now. And that doesn't mean you go out there and you dodge in a defender and you do a backflip and then you throw it with your left hand 40 yards down the field. But small special moment, the scramble against Penn State. That's what, like, a thing. I think he did what he needed to do for Ohio State to beat Texas. Yeah. I think he needs to be facilitating the win against Michigan, if that makes sense. Like him, Jeremiah Smith, like those, your best players have to be the reason you win this game, not just you won the game and you were along for the ride.
Yeah, like, I don't think he has to be special for Ohio State to win. Like, I don't think he has to be otherworldly, my goodness. Like, I think it's possible that Indiana plays Purdue on Friday night, that Indiana torches Purdue, And then we're like, oh, well, Julian's got his chance now to counter because, he can keep up in the Heisman race. And Ohio State wins the game, and Julian drops in Heisman odds. And Heisman, I think that's possible because I think when you say special, right, like you're talking about something like that, like the minute,
like when the moment calls for it,
Yes.
you need to be ready to do this.
I think that's totally fair, and I think that's possible. But I don't think I don't think it's a prerequisite for an Ohio State victory. If you get what I'm saying, like I don't think it has to happen.
Well, I mean, they've lost the last 4
I think it
years because that moment didn't happen, but the other moments did. The moments where they weren't out there. That's the thing. Ohio State's quarterback has not played well in this game in 4 years.
Yeah.
So, like, we can sit here and say, oh, he doesn't have to do that. The other ones didn't do it, and they lost the football game. I'm not saying he has to be on for every single play. But this game requires you to do things and be ready to do those things.
We have to consider like special in a context, right? Too, because it's like if Julian Sayin is just Julian Sayin, that's special. It's just we've seen it a ton, right? Like
That's fair.
Julian Sayin scrambling 9 yards on a 3rd and 6 against Michigan. That's a massive play. That is special. That keeps the drive alive. Well, we saw him do it, right? So it's like he doesn't need to do. When we say like he doesn't need to be special, we're saying that he doesn't need to throw for 500 yards, or at least that's what I'm saying. But he can still be Julian Sayin, which, like, it's consequence of your own actions. Like he is really good, so we say like when we say special, like you think like something beyond the ordinary. Like just do what you've been doing, man. Like accurate, taking shots.
It's not the totality. It's when the moment calls for it. And you know the moment when you see it. That's all. It's. You're right. Yeah, we're being facetious, but I actually don't want them to throw the ball 70 times. That's ridiculous. But when the moment calls for it, you have to make the play. That's what. And Bryce Underwood's in the same boat. All the good players of this game are in this. There's going to come moments on this defense when like Matt Patricia's going to look at Arvell or Sonny and Caleb and go like, dude, you're going to have to make a play right now. Like I can put you in the position. My job as a coach is to put you in position. The job is spend the week putting together a game plan and putting you in a position to make the play. You have to make the play. Jack Sawyer made the play earlier in the game, but he also missed a tackle in the hole that led to Michigan essentially sealing the game with that game-winning field goal. So that's what I'm talking about here. We're not talking about the totality of I actually don't think that Fernando Mendoza and Julian Sayin, that they're not a thing right. The Heisman race is over at this point. We know the names. Just get to the stage, and then you'll duke it out. Whether it's Julian Sayin, Fernando Mendoza, Marcel Reed. Obviously, this is Jeremiah Love's last stage because they're not in a conference, which nobody feels bad for you. Join a conference if you want to play in the conference championship weekend. Jeremiah Smith. Yeah, that's the names in the Heisman Trophy race aren't going to fundamentally change based on what happens this week if everybody handles their business. So it's more about it's 3rd and 3. You're in the position to make the play. Make the play. Don't turn the ball over. Because the other quarterbacks turned the ball over, and it's not the only reason they lost, but it played a significant role. And they've thrown 6 interceptions the last 3 years in this game. That matters. You can't make mistakes, but you also have to make the play when the play. Ryan Day was talking about that idea of knowing that balance of when you need to, try to go make a play and when you need to play smart. And I think Julian Sayin, for the most part this year, has done that. His 3 interceptions have been Tegra Shabola missed a block, so he's getting hit as he throws. He got greedy against Grambling, and they dropped 8, and he probably should have thrown it away and got greedy. But you can't get greedy. But you got to make the play when the play comes to be made.
And I think this is what you were talking about where it's like facilitating. Like, I don't think Julian Sayin has to be special, but I think he has to let other people be special. He has to let other people do that. Like if it's not going to happen, because if Julian Sayin makes a 5-yard throw to Jeremiah Smith on a drag route and just hits him in stride, and then JJ breaks through the defense and goes 70 yards, our first reaction is not going to be, wow, Julian, what a throw. We're going to be like, wow, Jeremiah, look at the dude he just stiff-armed and then juked out of his socks, and then now he's running into the end zone. So it's, you don't have to go kind of like you're saying, you just have to do essentially your job. I think that can be it, right? It doesn't have to be this level of special. It could just be, if you do the bare minimum, your job, you can facilitate other special players on this offense getting to that level, and then they get that shine, and then they get that acclamation.
But he's also got to make the play. Like he missed Brandon Ennis on a wide open touchdown last week. Don't miss Brandon Ennis.
the week
He missed Max Clare the week before on a touchdown. Don't of course there's going to be opportunity where he throws a 5-yard slant and someone takes it 40 yards. But that's not why people walked away from Penn State going, wow, Julian Sayin was great.
What Ryan Day, I talked about this earlier. It's what Ryan Day said, make the routine plays routinely, but there's going to come a point where Julian Sayin has to make a play because the play breaks down.
Right. The throws against Penn State people remember is him dropping 40-yard bombs on Penn State's head. Right, the throw you remember from Julian Sayin in the Texas game is a 40-yard touchdown to Carnell Tate, not him throwing a bubble screen that just so happened to go for 7 yards. So that's what I'm speaking about. The routine plays, I'm not worried about Julian Sayin's ability to make the routine plays. I'm really not even worried about his ability to make the big play. He just has to make the big play when it's time to make the big play. Because if you don't make the big play, when it's time to make the big play, well, we have 4 years of evidence of what happens when you don't do that.
Yeah. What's different is like going into the 23 game with Kyle McCord and then going into the 24 game with Will Howard. In both instances, you were worried about the guy making a mistake because they had shown you up until that point that they would do it. Just because Julian hasn't shown us doesn't mean it's not special when he goes out and does it. I think that's the point I was trying to make earlier, I guess, where it's just like he could put up a stat line that he's put up a million times already this year. You might say, well, that's not special. It's what he's been doing. No, it's special that he keeps doing it.
It's special that he has made that normal.
Yes, correct.
Just make the big play when the big play comes, man. They even say legends are made in this game, and you don't become a legend when you lose the game. No one talks about Jack Sawyer having a pick in that game because they lost it. They do talk about the strip sack though,
Scoop and Sawyer,
because they won the football
they got
game.
nachos for it.
When it was time to make the play, Jack Sawyer. They seriously have nachos
At Ohio State on the Scoop and Score nachos.
Is he making money over that?
Probably. I don't know. I don't want to answer that because I don't know the answer, but it was like the biggest thing in August. Outside of the game against Texas.
I hope he's seeing some money from that because, I don't know, it's not really
He probably never has to pay for a meal in Columbus. So
I mean, that's a fair
fine.
point. Yeah, that dude's just walking around here just scot-free. 614-350-3315, 2-week free trial, $3.99. After that, Ohio State, Michigan, that was a heated debate. You want more of that? Go listen to Buckeye Talk. We do that for an hour, sometimes an hour and a half. Never 2 hours. So I guess we'll see what happens on the live show on Wednesday. We cut it close. We definitely cut it close. Listen, it's Michigan week. Everything's running long. 614-350-3315. 2-week free trial, $3.99 after that. Steven, Andrew, Stefan, see you after the game.